And we're live. Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much for joining today's Zoom call.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the Tax Lady podcast. It's a little bit revamped, renewed. I have a new background that I created this call today. Yes.
Nice. I feel like I'm in your living room.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you. And I did take some notes so that I don't miss asking you questions. But to everyone who is just joining or is going to join later and watch this, Kelly Richmond Pope is a professor at DePaul University. She's a CPA and a PhD and a filmmaker. She brings accounting and film together. So of course, I'm super intrigued. I'm an accountant in Chicago, Illinois. I'm a practicing accountant. And so I'm just gonna have Kelly kind of talk about her new book and all the great stuff that she's doing in the accounting and finance world. So Kelly, thank you.
Thanks. So where do we start? It's a long history of many things to talk about. Where do we want to start?
So, you know what? I know you have a degree in accounting, right? Why don't we start from like college or where you're from? I know you're not, a Chicago native.
Sure.
You're from.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Durham, North Carolina, and moved to Chicago a little over 15 years ago. So I've been here for a long time. And I did my undergraduate and graduate and PhD all in accounting. So that's all I really know. But that's a good thing to know, because everything really, all roads lead back to accounting, and we know that. So I think it's a very strong skill set to have, because no matter what business it is, it all comes back to money. And so being able to understand that, speak that language, understand financial statements, and ask really good questions was something that I was always interested in. And so, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to be an educator. My parents were educators. So I wanted to be an educator and teach at the collegiate level. But I wanted to make accounting fun. And so that's really why I started mixing film and TV and games into the classroom, because I wanted students to understand. I wanted them to learn differently, but then understand how important accounting was.
Yeah. I wasn't an accounting major when I was at DePaul. I was a finance major. I think I took cost accounting once. I wanted to minor in accounting. And it was like a really, really hard class. And I remember not doing so well in it. And then I spent probably the entirety of my career in cost accounting on the cost side, right? I didn't really get into like revenue side or sales side of things until much later in my career when I, started my own company. So yeah, definitely. I mean, adding a lot of different perspectives and games and entertainment into teaching is very important. So maybe, I would have been able to understand cost accounting if it was presented to me in a different way, but who knows, right?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Water under the bridge.
Yeah, definitely. So, I did have a chance to watch your film, The Queen's Horses. And so I was really intrigued by the story. And of course, I wanted to understand, what drives people to commit fraud, right? It's a very scary topic to discuss, but it's very true. It happens every day in the business world, and so I wanted to understand what drives people to do that. And I haven't had a chance to read your book yet. It's not out until March 21st. But I read into things like greed as being one of those factors, people who feel that rules don't apply to them, narcissists, or somebody who tries to justify superiority, importance, or desire, and somebody who doesn't think of consequences. So I didn't get a chance to really learn about the main character in yesterday's film, but can we label her as all these things, or is it just one thing that could really drive a person to commit something terrible?
Well, I think it's a really good question, and one of the things I want us to do is understand that life happens, and it's when life is happening that can push us to think about making a fraudulent decision. So yes, narcissistic people, greed can be a reason, but just life happening, when you feel as though that you have access, maybe you have privilege in an organization, and you don't have any accountability, it can make us think about doing something unethical. I think one of the things that categories do is when we're talking about it after the fact, we can call that person a fraudster, or we can call that person is, immoral. But really what we have to think about is like, take a step back from that. Think about the beginning stage. No one ever thinks that they're unethical. If you ask anybody, are you an ethical person? They're going to say yes. I bet if you could even ask Bernie Madoff, God rest his soul, but if you could ask him, hey, Bernie, are you ethical? Even he would say yes. So we always see ourselves in a very positive light, but we have to think back that sometimes we all make decisions that if we don't think anyone's looking, we don't think we're going to get caught, we're going to do it. So we have to remember that those profiles, yes, there are people that fit in those profiles, but any one of us can engage in fraud. Any one of us can engage in fraud on any given day.
Yeah,
Don't think you're like, never think you're above fraud. Never think that.
Yeah.
Just like no one's above the law, no one's above committing fraud. And so when you think about that, and you think about even your employee population, your people that you hire that work for you, whether they be contractors or employees, think about everyone needs internal controls around them to protect them. So yes, it protects the organization, but it also protects them too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's when I think about bookkeeping and internal controls and bringing that into a company. But I look at it from a professional level. So, one of the things that I would think of is, for me, like I have to make sure that, the things that I say or that I advise my clients to do something on a professional level, that it is in a sound decision that actually creates, wealth for them, and that it keeps them away from like auditors and, setting those internal controls for their bookkeeping and accounting and things like that. So when I look at it, it's from a professional level. So for me, it's like being careful about the things I advise my clients on, but also being careful on the types of clients I work with. Because, I find that, I talk to people every single day, and business owners and investors, and it's getting harder and harder to, understand, honesty, right? Like how there's people out there who will like lie to you and know that I know that they're lying to me about a specific topic, but they'll still lie to me, like stuff like that. So, I mentioned that I think back in December, I had a post on my Facebook. I posted something that everyone is a liar. And it's just up to us in the business world to figure out how to strategize and catch people if they're lying to you, right? So that's important. And I think that's why people out there, commit fraud and do these things that you research and bring forward and let people know about.
Yeah. And I think we have to realize that we all have the propensity to lie. And I think that when we're honest about what pushes us, what our triggers are, when we're honest about that, then we're more aware of it. And I think that's important for all of us.
Yeah, definitely. I think your test that I took, actually, so I had the option, and I'm going to share the link. My link is actually in stories. If you guys go up into my stories on Facebook, you can check out this link where you can go and test yourself and see what kind of fraudster you are, right? So I actually didn't take the fraudster test. I took the whistleblower test. I wanted to see, some of the questions were really hard because I remember working with colleagues, and one of the questions was asking me, like, if I saw somebody, like a colleague, make some sort of fraudulent entry, like a journal entry or something, would I go and tell on them? or none? And some of these questions were really hard for me because I had to sit there and think to myself, because, you know, my colleagues are my friends, and would I not just want to correct them instead of going and telling on them? So, you know, I was really kind of really challenged with those questions.
And I think you should. So what you're talking about is the Fool Me Once fraud experience game I created. And there's two paths. You can either choose to, do you want to commit fraud or do you want to report fraud? So there's two things that you can do. And I think it's important. Oh, let me back up. One of the things that I wanted to do with my book, and my book is called Fool Me Once, Scam Stories and Secrets from the $1 Trillion Fraud Industry. But what I wanted to do is offer people a new way of thinking about fraudsters and whistleblowers. I'm just talking about those two categories right now. And I think that we all put people that commit fraud in one category, people that whistleblow in one category. And what I do in my book is I talk about actually there's 3 different types of white collar offenders you could be. You could be an intentional perpetrator, you can be an accidental perpetrator, or you could be a righteous perpetrator. The game tells you which one you would be based on some various scenarios that you go through. Then on the whistleblower side, everybody doesn't whistleblow because they're just grumpy and they don't mind their own business. There's different kinds of whistleblowers too. You can either be an accidental whistleblower, a noble whistleblower, or a vigilante whistleblower. Now you got to go read the book to find out all the different characteristics. But when you go play the game, it's going to tell you which one of those categories you fall into. And then at the end, it'll tell you like, oh, you are a righteous perpetrator if you were ever to be one. So that's the game. And it's really fun. It's in, like you said, it's in the stories link. It's also on my website under games, and my website, kellyrrichmondpope.com. And if you click on games, you'll see it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It was definitely a lot of fun, and I am going to take the other side of the test just to see where I fall into that category as well. So okay, let me back up to a little bit of what I do and how, you know, how like I'm catching myself now and how I want to, like, you know, get better at doing certain things in my area of expertise. So like as a professional in the finance world, you know, I find myself, you know, making videos and making posts and telling people, you know, what's good, what's bad, what to do, what not to do. And so now I'm starting to catch myself. Like the other day I posted something like, you know, because I said for real estate, for example, I said real estate investors who can't monetize on flipping houses. But then I saw somebody post about how they've like really like exploded in this business that they're doing, flipping homes, and they monetize. And so I caught myself being incorrect, because in today's world, you know, as a financial advisor, I can say that, you know, you can really monetize on a lot of different things in business. You can monetize on YouTube, you can monetize on, you know, posting Facebook shorts and reels and things like that. And so for me to say that you can't monetize on flipping homes, you know, isn't really accurate, because there are people who can do something better than maybe what I can do or what I'm capable of doing. And a lot of times, you know, as a professional, I have to be very careful about the things that I advise people on doing or not doing. So, you know, in that sense, you know, what would you suggest, you know, as being good practice for a financial professional?
You know, I think it's a really important question, because you always want to do what's going to maximize a return for your client, but you always want to make sure that it is legal and ethical, right? You never want, so what I say is what you're advising, is it ever going to put you on the cover of the Wall Street Journal in a negative way, And if it's questionable, if you have to ask yourself, I don't know. When that happens to you, follow your gut, because that's your second sense that's really telling you, maybe I shouldn't do this. Or if I told somebody the same thing, and would they agree with me? So I think putting people in your personal board of directors that you can bounce ideas off of is really important, because it's dangerous. It's tough. It's risky when you're advising clients, because they trust you. And you have to know what the rules are, the laws are, the outcomes, the what if scenarios, what's the worst thing that can happen. So I think always presenting the good and the bad when you are working with clients is really important. We, it's finance professionals, there's a lot of responsibility that we have. So we have to know our stuff.
Yeah. And I've learned to really just follow my intuition on a lot of things because, like I said, you never know what kind of, what's going to happen next. You just don't know, right? Like, I mean, we talk about today's economy and like people saying that we're going into recession and things like that. And, one of the things that, everybody's talking about today is the Silicon Valley Bank that got closed down or, got, politics involved and like, the government comes and seizes all your assets. And, I mean, is Silicon Valley a private or a public bank? I don't even know. I haven't researched it too much into them.
I think I would believe it's a private bank, but I haven't read a ton about it. What I've really just been watching, I've read the consumer side, how companies are responding. I haven't really looked a lot into the bank organization of it, but I've just been paying attention to the startups and the people that are affiliated with receiving funding from that bank. What does it mean now? So that's really what I've been reading about, but I haven't read a ton about it yet.
Yeah. I mean, so, with everybody talking about the economy and the way things are going, I've seen so many YouTube videos over the last few days just talking about recession and are we in a recession and, like all these things that are impacting consumer spend and, markets. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in the sense, to like, assets that, they might have managed like crypto or stocks or, portfolios of stocks for people or even real estate. So it's really like interesting to see what's going to happen with that. And it's really interesting to listen to people talk about, are we in a recession and what's going on? And I think just, from a professional standpoint, I don't know what to tell people. I'm struggling myself in the sense that, right now I'm trying to scale my business to the next level. And, how do you do that in an economic downturn? Because you've got to reinvest all your money back into the business somehow. And, how do you do that and stay on top of the law and everything?
Yeah. The only thing piece of advice I can give is when markets are good and times are good, save up, because what comes up always comes down and we just don't know when it's going to come down, but it's going to come down. We've had periods of growth and prosperous times. We've had long stretches of those, but those stretches seem to be much, much shorter now over the last 10 years. So I think what the best thing that we can do is when things are up, when your clients, you have good clients, big clients, they're paying on time, save up, because winter is coming. It always comes. It's going to come. You just don't know how long winter is going to last, but it's going to come. And I think that's the best thing that you can do, because the markets are just so unpredictable for most of us. Unless you're just uber wealthy, you are impacted by everything. We're so interconnected, whether it's the war in Ukraine, whether it's oil prices, we're so interconnected. If there's a drought and farming is having a problem and food costs are going up. I mean, we're all affected. So I think when times are good, save up. That's all that you can really do to protect yourself.
Yeah. So thank you for a lot of your inputs. I have to think like in so many different ways as a professional in finance. I have to think like an auditor. I have to think like an economist. And during a recession and watching food prices go up, that's definitely something that us accountants, we watch. And I see a lot of people talk about what's going on with the stock market and things of that nature that are changing as well and impacting consumer spend and things like that. So, with that said, there's so many things that are happening in the finance and accounting world right now. Where are you thinking of taking your filmmaking career? And I'm so excited to see more work from you.
Well, there's not going to be another film, so that's not going to happen. And I don't know that there'll be another book. So who knows what I'll do next? I might just take a break from the creative projects for a while. But the book comes out soon, so we'll see what that brings. And then we'll check back with me in a couple, maybe a year. We'll see where we are.
Okay, sounds good. I love that. Absolutely. So you are fully probably busy with teaching right now. I don't know, is DePaul on spring break right now, or are you?
We're about to start. I start teaching third week of March.
Okay, and then it's into final semester of the year.
Yeah, so it's spring quarter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. Yeah. So, what do you think is going to happen, as far as recession and the economic downturn? Do you see that happening, or what?
Well, I think we're living through it right now. We see it, every other day there are layoffs, there are tech layoffs. And so I think it's just the natural flow of the business cycle. We grow, we hire a bunch of people, and then we sort of, we diet. And so we purge some people, and then we're going to grow again, and then we're going to purge again. I mean, so I think it's just the natural business cycle. And so the best thing that you can do is just almost, you have your main job, but then you may have some hobby that can offer you some level of passive income so that you can protect yourself the best you can.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's business as usual for me. As I like to say, it's business as usual, no matter what's going on in the economy or in the markets. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining. I'm just going to close it off. And if you have final thoughts for the audience.
Now, let's see. My final thoughts are, it's great to talk to you and see you and be invited to your podcast. And go purchase Fool Me Once. And if you have any questions, let me know, reach out to me, and play the game on my website, and let me know what kind of white collar felon you would ever be if you were to be one, or a whistleblower if you ever be one.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for so much for joining today on your Saturday. And I just wanted to let everybody know that the next episode of the Tax City podcast will be at the end of April. I'm going to have an IRS attorney on my show. So look out for that. And I'm also going to stop accepting new tax clients as of March 15th. A lot of accountants went on break even weeks ago, and I'm going to just kind of, start giving myself a little bit of a break from the tax season starting March 15th or next week. So if you have any tax questions until then, please feel free to reach out. And thank you so much, Kelly, for joining. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.